I'm Ed Stafford. I've walked the length of the Amazon and survived on a desert island with only a camera to film my adventure. Over the past year, I've taken all I have learned and tested it to the extreme in 8 of the world's wildest environments. I wanted to see if I could go beyond survival and thrive.
Take it again.
Using only what nature provides. Each breakthrough,
Look at that!
and each painstaking struggle
Not again!
taught me something invaluable.
Whoa.
And now, I'm gonna share my secrets
It's not the individual skills, it's the difference in approach.
and reveal the 10 biggest lessons that I learned the hard way.
This mission aborted, I'm afraid.
These are my rules of survival. You won't find these rules of survival in the handbooks. With no knife, tools, or clothes, I have been forced to find my own ways to survive and come up with 10 rules I can apply anywhere. And so, my number 1 rule of survival is to stop and make a plan.
There's literally too much going on. Your brain starts to spin, it can be almost giddying.
The key is to compose yourself and slowly start taking back control.
I literally put the camera down and for 5 minutes turn the camera off and just sit there and just look around and absorb the place that I'm in. And it needs that space, it needs that little pregnant pause in order to then go on and crack on and do all the things you need to do that day. The immediate survival priorities are water, shelter, fire, food.
In the Golden Triangle in Thailand, the temperature was in the high 30s. An average person loses up to 3 litres of water a day. But in an extreme climate, you can lose 3 litres every hour. So my plan was to find water.
If I don't hydrate myself, I'm going to go down with dehydration very, very quickly. I need to get off this slope. I need to drop down. I need to find a source of water. And that is an urgent priority.
Water collects in gullies and valleys, but in the mountains of the Golden Triangle, they were everywhere. I had to be strategic. My plan was to investigate each valley one by one until I found a stream.
Keep going down. Water. Water.
Eventually, after a day of searching, sticking to the plan paid off.
No warning, no trickle trickle. A silent little stream. Look at that, and it's flowing.
Whenever I've stopped and thought carefully, my plan has worked.
I think my headline strategy, literally for how I've been able to best cope with these environments, is it's just to take a step back from it all. And then once you've got that distance from the whole thing, things are a lot easier.
When you accept your situation, you begin to adapt. And I found that I adjust far quicker when I'm armed with local knowledge. That's why my second rule of survival is think like a local.
For me, one of the lovely things about being given this experience to do Marooned is learning from the local people. Everywhere that I've been dropped off is completely different, and it needs a new set of skills. It needs a new set of eyes, really.
I've learned incredible techniques from locals for making fire.
It's almost too simple to be true, isn't it?
Building shelter.
Find it anymore.
It ain't bad,
And
is
then
it?
you
know,
put here.
for 10 minutes work.
อันนี้ตุ๊บแล้วก็ต้ม
I
I know that when I think like a local, I adapt quickly to new, unfamiliar surroundings.
They are the people who've got that inherent knowledge of where things are and how to do things specific to that environment. And as much as it's somewhat humbling, I think that learning process, that increasing of knowledge is absolutely vital.
My third rule of survival is never drop your guard. You've got to remain alert to predators, snakes, and whatever else is out there, especially after the first 48 hours.
By now, definitely the adrenaline has dropped and it's left my system, and it leaves you with that flatness. You're in a bit of a rut, maybe slightly apathetic. I think the big risk there is that you drop your guard. All of my focus at that point, when I can feel that creeping in, is just stay alert, stay alive, and keep my wits about me, basically.
Danger can come in all shapes and sizes. The most obvious threats are big dangers, like the buffalo in Rwanda.
They are there, because I can hear them, but they're out of sight.
African buffalo have a fierce reputation. They can weigh over 600 kilograms and can charge at speeds of 55 kilometers an hour.
If it charged you, you're pretty much dead. If you run away, you're pretty much dead. The local bushman guy said to me, if a buffalo ever does charge you and you're nowhere near a tree, lie down on the floor, because it will trample you and it will break a few bones, but at least there's a possibility you'll live. If you come in with the attitude that everything's going to kill you, then you're going to end up a paranoid mess. But if you come in with a due amount of respect for the potential dangers, I suppose, but with a realistic understanding of the likelihood of actually coming into any trouble, then these environments aren't inaccessible. These environments aren't things that you should stay well clear of.
Never dropping your guard doesn't mean living in fear. It just means being aware and being prepared. Rule 4. Learn from your mistakes.
Staying positive is being kind to yourself. Staying positive is not focusing on the things that you've done wrong and moving on from them.
Getting fire is always a major milestone. I relax once it's done, and I start to recognize all kinds of new opportunities. That's why rule number 5 is use what's around you. With water, shelter, and fire in place, you can start to prioritize other things, like finding basic food.
Stafford, why haven't you been eating these?
And making basic tools. Now is the time to make full use of what's around you.
I think that's pretty sharp.
Forage for food. And never pass up an easy meal.
That is such a good thing.
However unappetizing it may look. Edible insects in particular are an easy source of protein.
Breakfast of champions.
These next rules are the real game changers. Rule 6. Expand your horizons. In Venezuela, I left my camp to explore a waterfall further upstream and hit jackpot.
Ow! Right on my... What is that? Here. There's a bit of a washed up body in the river. The meat is fresh. I can eat that.
There was one foray that paid off more than any other. It's a great feeling when hard work pays off. But to survive long term, I found you need regular morale boosts. You've got to take breaks.
I think I definitely fell into the trap initially of focusing too much on the essentials and not giving myself, I suppose, any luxuries, anything to enjoy. I went from task to task to task in a very strict manner, and you can't exist in a state of trying to achieve something else. You need the space not just to break and physically relax, but for there to be a point in the whole thing. That little time where you are just reflecting or appreciating really what's around you, that is all part of getting to that stage where you're not just surviving anymore. That's getting to that stage where you really are starting to thrive because you're happy, I suppose. If you are on your own and you only have one pair of hands, you have to be very, very careful with how you allocate your time. Making traps, for example, you invest a little bit of intense time making or building a trap. Once it's set, that trap's then working for me all of the time while I'm off doing something else, and it just allows me the space to do other things.
Traps are essential to long-term survival, but outsmarting animals is no easy task. Many things have to be strategically considered.
If I set my traps on the tracks coming in here, this is a potential gold mine. Goes on the end of my little stick.
And in my experience, fish are the easiest targets.
In Venezuela, for example, I invested about a day and a half actually in constructing a very, very simple and yet labour-intensive fish trap. One fish trap set.
All I had to do was wait. Eventually, the waiting game paid off.
Check the fish trap one last time. There you are. There's something in it. Yes! Got a catfish. Got a catfish. Oh, and there's another one in there as well. That's incredible. I've got 2 fish. Breakfast! Yes, the fish trap works. Yes!
By working smart, not hard, I found ways to work with nature rather than against it.
I think you cannot underestimate the value of catching something in a trap. There's an undeniable psychological boost that goes alongside being successful. Oh my God! There's a skunk in there. There's a skunk in there. Ah! Ah! Yes! Look at that! Look at the size of it.
It's a great feeling when things go your way. But for every trap that has worked, there have been dozens that haven't. It can be one of many repetitive tasks that become a grind.
You know, when the camera's turned off at the end of the day, I'm still in those conditions. I'm still next to the fire. Fire usually in most situations will only last about 2 hours before it starts to die down. So it's waking up every hour and a half to push the logs together in order to keep it going. The stuff that isn't transmitted, that's the stuff that actually, after a while, wears you down.
It's all too easy to remember the good times and forget the bad. Every time I was dropped, my aim was to thrive. And these final rules helped me take survival to a whole new level. Rule 9. Make yourself at home. Small things can go a long way.
It is those little things like having a cup of tea, going for a swim, putting on some clothes, even if it's grass skirt, yet again, just make everything seem that bit more normal, really.
If you want to survive long term, you've got to get domesticated.
Roasted salted nuts, Edward. You're spoiling yourself.
Things like a cup of tea made the world of difference to my morale.
Tea's on.
In Arizona, I caught a skunk and took my cooking to another level.
Having spent so long without clothes, without food, without tools, then coming back to a situation of relative luxury with my fire and my frying pan and my vehicle, that level of appreciation is so much higher. And it makes you realise that you take these things for granted, don't you? Having basic food and just, I think it's just given me that ability to enjoy those simple things all the more. You know, eggs on a frying pan over the fire is the ultimate luxury. And I don't think I would have realised that if I hadn't put myself through a fair amount of hardship along the way.
Lessons like these have made me realise that many aspects of survival are all in the mind. That's why my final and possibly ultimate rule of survival is all about having the right attitude.
There's a lot of lessons that end up being very difficult to actually convey, and one of those is a feeling of gratitude, really. And I think that once you have that attitude of gratitude, things go your way.
And with an attitude of respect and gratitude, the wild has opened up in ways I could have never imagined.
I'm just not gonna go any closer than this tree. That is quite incredible. Nine elephants. That is one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life. Oh my God. My heart was thumping, absolutely thumping. Right, let's go. The feeling of sharing this environment with them, of living off the land, amongst animals as big and as beautiful and as majestic as these giraffes, that takes my breath away. I have to say, that takes my breath away.
These rules have helped me survive in any environment, but it's not all I'll take from this experience.
I think my biggest lesson has been to give myself the space to enjoy it, to actually sit down every once in a while, look into the flames, have a nice meal, open my eyes and start appreciating what's around me. Because that's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. To be dropped into any remote environment without anything at all, that's an adventure. That's a proper adventure. Woo! It's raining! I got myself a frog for supper. Yes! Yes, 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 yes. This time, I really do feel like I have thrived. And loved it. Yes! 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 Little pat on the back, Eddie. All right, let's go.